and different weights of spacesuits and doing a whole series of different spacewalk activities that we expect to do when we go to the moon or Mars or an asteroid. And the idea behind that is that we're trying to find out what's the best weight of suit and the best configuration of suit, the best center of gravity that allows us to do all these different tasks that we're going to need to do when we're exploring elsewhere in the solar system. My job as one of the NASA crew members is to help participate in these EVAs that we do every day, and we're also all participating in a series of biomedical experiments that we do inside the habitat here when we're nice and warm and dry, where we're looking at changes in our bodies and even changes in our heads to see kind of how we adapt to living in what's a fairly extreme environment for a couple of weeks in a confined space. You may be seeing a picture there of our whole crew. Has the 6 of us, and you know we're 9 days in right now, and so far it's just been a fantastic experience. We're all learning a lot. We're learning a lot about living in an extreme environment, and we're learning a lot about each other as well, and having a good time doing it.
Well, thank you for that, Andrew. That sounds like very, very important research. I see that you have a dive helmet right next to you. But I think there's also some patches behind you. Is that right? What are those patches?
That's right. Yeah, if you look over my left shoulder here, you'll see some excellent patches from Odyssey, Milstead, and Richland here, and we were all very impressed to see those, and really appreciate the effort that went into them. You obviously have a lot more artistic ability than I do, so I'm very impressed, and we all appreciate the effort you guys put into those.
I agree, and I think I'm going to go ahead and go to Milstead Middle School, because I think you guys can certainly recognize that patch that you created. And as you come along, you might be able to tell Andrew about your experiences controlling the ROV, and ask your first question to Andrew as well. Milstead Middle School.
Go ahead. Okay, that's fine, Andrea. Go ahead.
What do I ask?
Just speak loudly right where you're at.
Speak normally.
Go ahead. Hurry, please. Yeah.
They're looking at it. Do you have
All right,
any
Milstead, I haven't
issues?
heard a question yet. I'm sorry, I guess I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Do you have any issues, like things attacking you or weather issues?
All right, hopefully you heard that, Andrew. I think they were wondering if you heard, if you were worried about anything attacking you or any weather issues so far.
Yeah, that's a great question, and you know, when we're underwater, of course, we can't tell if it's raining, for example. So you know, I don't even know if it's been raining at all for the last 9 days. But we can tell if it's very sunny or not. You know, the sunshine does filter down to this depth. And we do notice if the seas are very rough and stormy, because as large waves pass overhead, what that does is actually create extra pressure inside the habitat here, and you can feel it in your ears. You know how if you're flying on an airplane, for example, or you swim deep underwater, then you can feel it in your ears and it's soft and clear. And so as large waves pass overhead, we can actually feel that in our ears, which is kind of neat. But you know, otherwise, we're very kind of immune. We're almost unaffected by the weather that's going on outside. It does affect our support divers who come and help us with the spacewalks that we do outside there. We have a large support team based at Aquarius Reef Base, and they come out from dry land each day in boats, and they dive down just on regular scuba gear and help us out with things outside the habitat. And for them, when it's been stormy seas like it has been the last week or so, it makes their life a lot more difficult. You'll see the picture there. You can see that the folks in the red shirts at the front are just that's me and the rest of the crew. But you can see they're just a very small part of what's a large team, and that's very similar to the way NASA missions are usually, where you'll see the astronauts who have the privilege of flying in space. But for every astronaut, there are enormous teams of people who go into making these missions happen. And actually, if you look outside my window right now, you can see a couple of these support divers floating around out there. I don't know if you can see them on the camera there. But these are the people that work very hard day and night, and we really can't do these missions without the support from those folks. So they're the people who unfortunately get affected by the weather a lot more than we do. And in terms of things attacking us, fortunately, you may have seen there's there's a lot of wildlife around here, which is really cool. Very large barracuda with sharp-looking teeth, and a lot of other fish as well. Fortunately, they're very good at welcoming guests such as us. They just keep their distance as long as we don't pester them, which we don't. We just they mind their business and we mind ours. You can see a video of a stingray there. They're also they can be dangerous if you bother them, but we see them swimming around frequently, and they just go about their business and let us go about ours. So, and that's true in most places you'll go. Whether you're dealing with humans or animals, if you go about your business and are good guests, then they'll leave you well alone.
And I couldn't agree more, Andrew. I'm sorry to interrupt you if you had anything more to say, but I do want to mention that our connection with Aquarius is not the best, and we're going to try to improve that. So if you don't mind, Andrew, we're going to drop your connection, redial out to you, and if you can go ahead and pick up that call in the next couple seconds, we'd appreciate it. Maybe we can improve the connection so the students can hear you a little bit better. But I want to, in the meantime, while we're doing that, I wanted to make sure that Ronnie Crownover Middle School is still with us. Are you guys there?
We're here. We're here. Yes.
Well, good morning, Ronnie Crownover. It was unfortunate that you weren't able to connect with us yesterday morning, but I'm glad to see you connected this morning. And once we get back to Aquarius, I'll give you guys an opportunity to ask your first question. So get ready to do that. I hope you guys at Milstead Middle School certainly enjoyed your event on the 11th. Unfortunately, we ran into some technical issues, so I wasn't able to necessarily fit in some time for you to present your findings to us here at the Johnson Space Center. But if you can feel free to talk about those things to Andrew, who's in the Aquarius habitat. Now, we're going to reconnect to Aquarius any moment now. I'm sorry, Ronnie Crownover, did you have something?
I said thank you for having us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. I haven't seen your class switch yet, but I'm sure you'll pop up here pretty soon. You guys have a good question? I'm sure you guys have a couple of good questions that you're very curious about, and we are happy to get you down to Aquarius. We're actually dialing Aquarius right now, so. Well, maybe we're having some technical issues still, but we'll be able to work through those. In the meantime, though, maybe I can go to Milstead Middle School, and maybe you guys can fill me in about what actually happened on May 11th. Milstead, are you still with me?
Yes, we're here.
Okay.
Well, what I had them do, as an extension activity, I actually had them draw and see how the rover's perspective was and what they saw. So in a couple of their, I guess, seascapes, if you will, we had some coral reefs, we had some barracudas flying by, and we also were able to see Aquarius in the distance. So that's what I use as kind of an extension activity. And they're a little shy this morning, so I apologize for that.
No problem.
Thank you.
Did you guys get to see any? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Thanks for that activity.
Oh, no problem. Did you guys see any divers while you were doing that activity?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
We were able to see divers. I also had my laptop up, and we were able to get some live webcams, and I emailed those to the students, and they were able to see those themselves, apart from that event.
Very cool. And how much time did you actually spend with Heather Knight controlling the rover?
About 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay. Excellent. And did all the students get a chance to, or maybe most students get a chance to control this rover?
What we did was we were able to see how they navigated it and work towards various spots of the coral reef, and she asked us questions about the situation there at the bottom of the sea.
I see. And was it pretty much in real time? Like when you said go left or go right, did that really reflect what happened on the screen?
Yes, it was. Exactly.
So it wasn't too delayed?
Not at all.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear that. We're still trying to connect with Aquarius students, but I think we can go to Ronnie Crownover Middle School. If you guys want to ask me a simple question, I bet I might be able to answer it. I know I'm not an aquanaut, but I bet I can. Well, we're actually calling Aquarius now. We'll see if we can get Andrew back with us again. Hello, Andrew. How are you doing?
Very well. I'm hearing you just fine. How do you hear me?
The connection seems to be a lot better, so I'm glad to see that. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and go to Ronnie Crownover Middle School, who is in Corinth, Texas. They didn't necessarily get to, they weren't involved with the ROV event, Andrew, but they are still anxious to ask you a couple questions. So, Ronnie Crownover, come on in and say hello to that diver. Looks like we have a visitor diver.
Hi, Mr. Diver.
Okay, my name is Kevin Yee, and I just want to know what kind of research and experiments you conduct underwater.
You're doing much louder, sweetie.
All right. Well, I'm not sure if Aquarius is still with us or not. We're going to try to work that again.
I'm seeing you now. I got a black screen there for a few seconds, but I'm seeing you now.
Okay, great. So did you hear the question, Andrew?
I'm afraid no, I didn't catch the question.
All right. Well, I'll let Crownover Middle School ask that question one more time.
Okay, my name is Kevin Yee, and I just want to know what kind of research and experiments you conduct underwater.
All right, good question. So we actually do a lot of experiments both in the water and other ones here in the habitat while we're inside. And at the moment, the guys outside, and I'll be going outside basically once I'm finished talking to you guys. Later today, I'm going to go outside with Steve, and what we're doing out there is using, hopefully you've seen on the internet, the full-scale mock-ups that we have of a rover, of a large lander spacecraft, as well as other pieces of equipment such as bladders and cranes and so on. And we're using those to do all the different types of tasks that we think we'll have to do when we're exploring elsewhere in the solar system. And we need to understand what kind of a spacesuit we need in terms of how heavy it is, and also where you put all the mass of your spacesuit. You know, there are a lot of heavy things in a spacesuit that are required to keep you alive. And you can put them in one big backpack, or you can try and put some of those different bits and pieces elsewhere on your body. And where you put those things and how much it all weighs really affects how well you can do all these different tasks. And so what we're trying to do right now is do all these different tasks with different configurations of spacesuits, so that we then know that when we set out and actually build the next generation of exploration spacesuits, we know exactly how we want it to work, so that it works really well and feels good to be in and lets you do everything you need to be able to do. So that's most of what we're doing outside. On the inside, what we're doing is a lot of biomedical experiments that look at, they do several things, and the lessons that we're learning are applicable both in space to future missions, both on the space station and beyond low Earth orbit, and then also applicable here on Earth. Things like changes that happen to your body, to the cells and the blood in your body during a long period of time in a stressful environment, and then also things that happen in your brain, and things like how well you sleep, or maybe how well you don't sleep, and we're trying to measure these things to both to understand how the body changes over the course of a mission, and then if we can measure how it changes, then we can start coming up with what we call countermeasures, which are just ways of stopping any bad things from happening to your body or to your brain over the course of a long mission. And so there's a lot of, on a daily basis inside the habitat, we are giving saliva samples. We do, not every day, but we have to do some blood samples. We even do exhaled air, which is where, and this is a really cool thing actually, what they're trying to do is to stop, if you've ever had to give blood before, you'll know that it's not a whole lot of fun. And so one of these experiments actually looks at using exhaled air to measure a lot of different things about your body. So we get a straw and then a little, looks like a little test tube. It's a little glass bottle. And then you just breathe out into this bottle and then put a little cap on it. And so it just looks like regular air, but they can actually take it away and analyze it using some pretty fancy equipment in a lab and tell you all sorts of things about your body. So they're collecting that data during this mission to see how we adapt, and also to help develop the techniques that they need to measure things. And hopefully, certainly astronauts in space and most people on the ground will be happy if we can get ways to measure things that don't require you to have a needle stuck in your arm and give blood. So there's a lot of different things going on in here, and it keeps us very busy. So good question.
Yeah, that was a good question, Andrew. I agree, and certainly you've talked about so many of the research topics that NEMO is having to do with, and certainly I think it's the key for the students to remember is the fact that this research is something that will be useful for students as they grow up. They're going to be actually using some of this technology that you're researching currently in NEMO 14. So look forward to that, students, as you go through school and enter adulthood. But let's go back to Milstead Middle School, because I think you guys want to ask a couple more questions for Andrew. Milstead Middle School.
Okay, here we go.
Hi, my name is Antonio.
Louder.
Hi, my name is Antonio, and I wanted to know, how does this mission help us on land?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's a question that people ask about NEMO missions and also about space missions. And there's the good news is there's all sorts of ways that these missions help folks on land. And well, in fact, I mentioned one of them just now about if we can come up with ways to stop people from having to give blood to see what's going on in your body, then at least for me, I like the idea of that. There's other things we're doing. A thing that they call, actually they've got a kind of fancy name for it, the psychomotor vigilance test. But it's a little test that we do every morning and every night, and it's on a laptop, just a regular laptop computer. And the first part of the test is just like a reaction time test, where you have to sit there and it's got a little webcam pointing at your face, so it's actually tracking what your face is doing, and then you have to react as quickly as possible to these numbers that come up on the screen. It'll start flashing them, and then you have to just hit the space bar on the laptop as quickly as you can. And then if you press it too early, it gives you a false start, and then the webcam on your face will see it when you go, oh man, I can't believe I did that again. And then so they actually track both how quickly you can react as well as your facial responses. And what this actually is telling them is it's a way of them gauging how tired are we getting. And as we're getting more tired over the course of the mission, or maybe it's been a really long day, we had really long dives and we've been not getting much sleep, then they actually can measure changes in our reaction time as well as changes in how you react. When you don't do well, you get a really slow reaction or you do a false start. And that's applicable on Earth as well, because there are a lot of jobs, even things like long-distance truck drivers, right? The people driving trucks for a living have a huge responsibility, because if one of those trucks crashes, it usually does a lot of harm, right? And actually, one of the leading causes of fatalities on the roads is because drivers are fatigued. Not just long-distance truck drivers, but drivers in general. So they're looking at things like this PVT test to help make sure that truck drivers aren't too sleepy to drive, make sure that they're safe when they're on the roads. Another neat thing we have is it's called E-Tag, which is I don't have one in front of me right now, but it's this it's about the size of like a credit card, a thick credit card, and it just goes over your chest like this. And instead of having to attach all different electrodes and stuff like that to measure your heart rate and other things about your body like cardiac output, things that are really important in understanding how healthy your body is or isn't, this E-Tag device just sits over your, there's a little strap and it just sits across your chest like that, a little bit like just a regular heart rate monitor, but it does a lot of other things besides measuring your heart rate. And then you just attach it, and then you go about your business. And then, you know, that's another way that it's really quick to put it on and off, and it doesn't, you know, require electrodes and leads and cables and stuff like that. And that's applicable not just during space flight and during NEMO missions like this, but you can also use it on Earth. And it's a quick way that the military, actually, the United States military are interested in this device, because it gives them a really quick way of understanding how badly injured, for example, a soldier might be. If he's been injured in a battle, they can just grab this thing, put it over their chest, and then really quickly get a life score index, they call it, and look at, you know, how badly hurt is this person. And that's a you know, an important application of a technology that's useful both for space research. We're developing it here in NEMO 14, or helping develop it, and it's very applicable on dry land as well. So, very good question.
That's right. That was a good question. I guess with that said, if you're an aquanaut, you have to be pretty comfortable with being a human guinea pig. You know, I do have to tell you, Andrew, that we had a school just join us. They are Richland Middle School, and they're from Richland Hills, Texas, and they were one of the other schools that were involved with the ROV activity. Richland Hills, are you there?
Yeah.
Well, good morning, Richland Hills. I'm sure you can recognize the patch that may be on that wall behind Andrew. And with that said, I think you are welcome to go ahead and open up your mic and ask your first question to Andrew.
I'm Kara Christian from Richland Middle School, and my question is, how is Aquarius built?
Wow, that's a good one. How is Aquarius built? Well, I had no idea myself until a few days ago, actually, because I asked the very same question. And it turns out it was actually built in Texas. So, you know, and Texas is good at building pretty tough, strong things. I know that. So what they actually did to build this underwater habitat was they took huge plates of steel that were almost an inch thick, and then they rolled it between these big rollers so that they could roll this, what started off as a big flat piece of steel. They rolled it all the way around till it made a big cylinder, basically. And so, you know, if you've seen the pictures, and even behind me, this wall is actually curved, going around like this. So the habitat is a big cylinder with caps on the end, and then they took, you know, huge caps on either end and welded those on. And then, in addition to the steel, what they did was apply about an inch of this really hard, thick foam insulation, which means that if you don't insulate it, then all of the heat that we have inside of the habitat would just be sucked away by the water outside. Or if the water got really warm, then it would all just get passed in here. So, and the habitat itself was something like 80 tons. So it's an extremely heavy habitat. And the big cylinder itself is attached to a base plate, which weighs something like 120 tons. This thing is enormous, and it has four big kind of legs that it stands on. Each leg has 25 tons of lead in it, and then the cylinder is then clamped down, secured really tightly onto that. And so, even in stormy seas, you know, this habitat survived hurricanes living in the ocean. So it's so enormous and heavy that it's impossible to budge the thing unless you bring out enormous ships to lift the thing up and relocate it. So it's an extremely tough habitat. It's really impressive. There's all sorts of gauges and tanks and valves and life support systems and switches on the walls. And you know, for the NASA-based crew members that come in for these missions, there's no way they could train us on how to operate all of the habitat in a you know, reasonably short period of time. So that's why we have 2 professional aquanauts from Aquarius Reef Base, who in our mission are called James and Nate, and they know how every single thing in this entire habitat works. And so they just, you know, run around all day flipping switches and turning valves and rushing gas in and out and making sure that we stay safe. And so it's a really impressive habitat and really neat. And like I say, it was actually made in Texas. So good question.
That was a good question and good answer. It looks like we have some visitors, Andrew.
Yeah, these are guys who are they're supporting Chris and Tom during their EVA outside right now, and I think they're just taking a little lap around, and they know that I was getting the chance to talk with you guys, so they like to take the chance to wave through the window usually. So,
well, we're happy that they can do that for us. Now, I know we are getting close to the designated time that you may have to leave for us, but I wanted to, and the schools may have to leave as well, because we did schedule this for a certain time. But if there's more time that you can donate of yourself, Andrew, you'll have to let me know. Looks like you can be with us for some more time. And if the schools have to go, I understand, but since we did get a late start with some technical difficulties that we apologize for, you know, you're welcome to stick around for the next several minutes or so. But let me return to Milstead Middle School. If you guys are still with us, I think you can ask Andrew another question. Milstead Middle School, are you there?
Yeah, louder.
I'm Samantha. What are you going to explore during this mission?
yeah, I only heard part of the question there, I'm afraid.
All right, Milstead, if you can speak up. Andrew can hear you.
Talk really loud, really loud.
What are you going to explore during this mission?
Okay, yeah, what are we going to explore? That's an excellent question. So I told you about some of the research that we're doing when we're outside and when we're inside. But one of the really probably most fun things that we got to do was we took Sunday off, and so on Saturday night we were able to stay up late because we didn't have to work all day on Sunday. And so on Saturday night we actually did a night dive. And we waited until it was completely pitch dark outside, and then we went out 2 at a time, same as we do during these EVAs, but instead of doing all the EVA tasks, we just went exploring. We took flashlights, and then we went all around underneath the habitat and around in the coral reefs nearby, and looked at all the different life forms that come out at night, because it's really interesting. You know, during the day, we'll look out the window and see all different sorts of fish and stingrays and barracuda and so on. But then at night, it's actually it's very different. There are some fish that basically sleep more or less during the day, and then when night falls, they perk up, and then it's feeding time for them. So we got to see just thousands and thousands of these fish, ranging from tiny little things that glow when you move your hands to enormous Goliath grouper that are hundreds of pounds, way more than I do, and stingrays. We saw a nurse shark, those large barracuda that you probably saw if you were driving the ROV around. So just all sorts of really neat life forms that are out there, and we're living in their world right now. And so I really enjoyed that. We're also going to get the chance to do, in a couple of days, we're going to do exploration traverses, and those are, they actually have a very specific purpose, and that's for us to practice the techniques that we're going to use to do kind of more methodical exploration when we're exploring elsewhere in the solar system. So when we go outside, whether we're on the moon, or Earth's moon, or a Mars moon, or even Mars itself, when we go outside, then we need to map what we're doing. Get the very specific location of the different things that we're seeing, document them really well, photographing them and taking video and so on. So we're going to go outside here and do the same thing around Aquarius, where it'll be during the day this time, but we go out in pairs and we'll map the different coral outcroppings and record the different types of coral, different types of plants and coral that we see. And that will actually be 2 of our dives on 2 consecutive days, and we'll be venturing a lot further away from the habitat then than we've been doing during these dives so far. So I'm really excited about that part of it. So we do get to do a combination of both exploration as well as research, which is a lot of what NASA does as well. A lot of the time the research is designed to allow us to explore further. So it's a really good combination of that here at NEMO.
I couldn't agree more, Andrew, and there is a lot of very, very incredible things that are being researched while you guys are under the water inside Aquarius. But I think we have time for probably 2 more questions, if that's okay, Andrew. We'll go to Ronnie Crownover Middle School in Corinth, Texas. Do you have a question for Andrew?
Introduce yourself. I'm Ellen Biggerstaff, and my question is, what has the data shown about your experiment so far? Have you gotten any results back about your changed behavior?
That's an excellent question. So, we've been trying to gauge for ourselves, how much we've changed. Have we gotten more tired or grumpy or anything like that? And with most of the tests that we do during the mission, they actually don't show us the results, because even just seeing your own results can kind of affect your behavior in itself. But before the mission started, we made sure to talk with a lot of the other scientists who are doing this, helping us do this research. It's their experiments, and we're kind of test subjects for their experiments. And so after the mission's over, we're going to be able to sit down with them and review the data and see kind of what did happen. And they have a combination of things, like I told you. There's blood that we give, lots of different saliva samples, exhaled air samples, things that we attach to our chest during the day. We even have these vests that you put on at night, which do have electrodes that we put on our chest and zip it up and plug in some wires and then put this data logger device next to our bed. And that helps us measure how well we're sleeping. We also have these things, if you can see on my wrist here, this is called an ActiWatch. I've got a regular watch, and then I also have an ActiWatch, which has a little light sensor as well as an accelerometer, which is something which just measures movement. And so I wear this all the time except when I go out in the water. And from this, they can tell when I'm awake and when I'm asleep, and even when I'm asleep, how well I'm sleeping. Am I rolling around all the time, like getting a not very good night's sleep, or when I go asleep, do I just fall asleep and not wake up till morning time? So we've not actually had the chance to see any of the results during the mission, although I'm really interested to see it. But once the mission's over and the scientists have had a bit more time to analyze the data, they're going to show it to us, and I'll be really interested to see how my own perception of how I changed during the mission matches up with their data. But I can tell you that I'm really enjoying myself. I don't feel like I'm going crazy living down here. I'm really enjoying spending the time with these other 5 guys and having so many different objectives to do out in the water as well as in here, that we all feel are very worthwhile and very important for both for our future exploration with NASA, as well as a lot of benefit for humanity back on Earth. That helps keep your energy levels up even after a long day. So, very good question.
Yeah, that is very interesting, Andrew, and it looks like, again, that you're doing some important research, but it also seems that there's being some important research done on you yourself. So, again, you have to be comfortable being a human guinea pig. We're going to go to Richland Middle School for one last question. Richland, are you there?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, my name is Alicia Williams, and I'm from Richland Middle School. My question is, how is the research being done on Aquarius going to benefit people's lives in the future?
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I think I've tried to describe some of the areas, such as the various biomedical experiments, trying to reduce the number of times that you're going to have to give blood during your life. I'm pretty excited about that one personally. There are, and actually, one of the areas that I've not talked about is that NASA's involvement with NOAA, who own the habitat, and the University of North Carolina Wilmington, who help operate it. We've helped develop this infrastructure where they already had the habitat in place, but things like the ability to do what we're doing right now and have a video conference, albeit with a few minor technical hitches. The other, when NASA's not here doing their NEMO missions, there are a lot of other marine biologists who come here and use the Aquarius habitat for their missions. And what we've heard is that during the course of the missions that they do, they have really come to appreciate the extra infrastructure, the communication systems and so on that Aquarius Reef Base and NASA have worked on together, because it really helps them with their research, both in terms of being able to pass data back and forth, and also they do kind of public outreach events of their own where they'll talk to folks such as yourself, and be able to show them the different habitats outside, the different types of coral, the different fish, all the different species, and how they're being affected by different environmental factors. And the research that they're doing is every bit as important as what NASA's doing. Some of it includes, for example, because Aquarius is in a national marine sanctuary, it's mostly protected from human influence or direct human influences, but there's things like the reduced amount of ozone in the atmosphere, which you've probably heard about, allows more ultraviolet radiation through the atmosphere, and that can actually sunburn the coral. As you're well aware, I'm sure, that you can be sunburned yourself, but you probably didn't know that coral under the water can also get sunburned. And so they're doing research to look at how that can be, the extent to which that's happening and how it can be prevented. There's also a lot of different little pharmaceuticals, little drugs and chemicals that are given off by the coral around here, and they're being collected and sampled and investigated to see can more useful drugs for treating things like Parkinson's disease and heart disease, and can we get cures for diseases here on Earth from the coral that's outside here? And so the idea that we could be able to find cures for diseases outside the habitat here is really cool to me, and so that's the kind of research which is being done not directly during this mission, but as a result of the habitat being here and the extra infrastructure that's been put in place. It's really working well, not just for this mission, but for all the other missions that happen here at Aquarius.
I see, Andrew, and certainly we've talked about all of the important outer space research that's being done during NEMO 14, but it also sounds like that you're doing some very important ecological research. So certainly a marine biologist can get involved with the NEMO program. And maybe to see us out, maybe you could touch upon some of the careers that you've come across in your time working with NEMO, and maybe you can also talk about what the students need to pay attention to as they go through school.
Yeah, definitely. So we showed the photo before of the team, both the NASA crew and the whole topside team that comes together to make this mission happen. And even that photo didn't show everybody. There are a lot of other people around the country that are involved in making this mission happen. There's the photo again. And so here we have geologists, people who are interested in rocks and how planets and moons are formed. Mary Sue Bell is our planetary geologist in topside. We have expert professional divers who without whom obviously none of this could happen. Around the table here, this is a planning conference. We have CATCOMs, which are people who are have experience from NASA in communicating back and forth between the crew who are at a distant location and a large topside support team. The act of just communicating back and forth can actually be very difficult, and if you don't do it well, then that can have a big effect on your mission. There's marine biologists like we described. There's there are artists, there are writers, there are public affairs folks such as yourself, Ryan, and we have boat drivers, and a lot of these tasks, to the extent that you can be good at more than one thing, then that makes you all the more useful, of course. So, I myself am an engineer, a mechanical engineer by training, but I'm very good at washing dishes and vacuuming the floor and cleaning things if need be, and making dinner. And in a mission like this, that's very important that you're willing to pitch in and do your part to help. In terms of school training, what I tried to do, I knew, but when I was about 17, I was involved in an international space school. And I lived in Scotland at the time, actually. Then I came out to Houston, Texas, saw for myself the fascinating research and exploration that NASA does, and I decided that that's what I wanted to do in my life. Even though I lived in Scotland and wasn't quite sure how I would make that happen. And so what I did was I knew that if I studied hard and just did my best in all my classes, then opportunities would come available. I also just looked online. I was just starting to learn about the internet back then. This was probably 13, 14 years ago, and I looked for opportunities to do things not just in school but outside of school. I played sports, stayed fit, stayed healthy, and just tried to take advantage of any opportunity that came up. I would say, all right, that sounds like it is worthwhile, even if it's not necessarily. Most of the things I do are fun. Sometimes they're not as fun, but I know they're worth doing, especially if they'll benefit other people. And so I would actively seek opportunities to do those kinds of things. And one of the best bits of advice I got, which was actually on this first trip when I was 17, I met Chris Hadfield, who's our commander on this mission right now. Just as a pure coincidence, I came out to Houston, as I mentioned, and I lived with Chris Hadfield and his family for almost 3 weeks. I never met him before, and 13 years later, we ended up being on the same Nemo crew together. So it's a small world sometimes, but one of the pieces of advice Chris gave me back then was, whether you want to be, an astronaut, an engineer, an artist, or whatever your career aspirations are, do things that you enjoy doing, and try and do them as well as you can. Because if you are doing things that you don't enjoy at all, then whatever job you find doing those things, you'll probably not enjoy that job either. So I've just found things that I like, and if I decide to do it, I set my mind to it and do it as best I can. It's served me well so far, and that was the advice from Chris, who's now my commander, and if it's good enough for Chris, it's good enough for me.
I couldn't agree more, Andrew. That's very, very good advice, and I agree. I think students need to work hard in school, because that's how their dreams can come true. Now, we certainly want to thank you, Andrew, for your time today. Good luck for the rest of the mission, and I'm sure the students want to thank you as well. Everyone, all the schools involved, can go ahead and say goodbye now at this point. They may not be able to hear you, but thank you again, Andrew, and have a wonderful rest of the mission.
Thank you very much. Yes. Bye. Bye.
Alrighty, students, I really hope you enjoyed speaking with Andrew. We're going to go around the room real quick to see how you guys enjoyed this. Let me go to Milstead Middle School. Are you guys still with us? Milstead Middle School. Well, maybe they had to leave, and that's you know, there's schedules to follow. We all understand that. But let's go to Ronnie Crownover Middle School. Are you guys with us?
We're here. We're here.
All right. What did you guys think? Did you guys enjoy the program today?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that you were able to connect and ask at least a couple questions. Let me go to Richland Middle School. Are you guys with us?
Yeah.
All righty. Sounds like you guys enjoyed the program as well. I certainly did as well, and you can certainly keep track of NEMO 14's progress if you visit our website at www.nasa.gov. And if you go to this website, type in NEMO, and you can go to the NEMO homepage where you can learn so much more about the NEMO program. We actually have a Facebook page and a lot of other neat things to see there. So with that said, thank you guys for joining us today. I'm going to leave you with a special message by astronaut Joe Acaba. So for now, thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and goodbye from the Digital Learning Network. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Joe Acaba. I'm a teacher and a NASA astronaut. Getting an education is the best thing you can do to prepare for a great future. But even after you graduate from school, the learning continues. For example, when I put on this spacesuit for a training session, I get to learn all kinds of cool and exciting things. We wear this suit when we train to launch and return to Earth on the space shuttle. It's called the Advanced Crew Escape Suit, but we usually call it the pumpkin suit because of its color. We carry all kinds of items in this suit, including lights, mirrors, a radio, and even a life raft. I get to learn about all of it, and so can you. NASA has a bunch of amazing products for students, including videos, neat education activities, and information about careers at NASA. It's all waiting for you at the NASA website. If you're interested, check it out. Who knows? You could be the one to design or wear the spacesuit that takes us back to the moon and on to Mars.